Okay, everyone. Well, welcome. My name is Christine Harrington, and I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Student Success here in New Jersey. And I am delighted to bring to you today three national experts really on the Student Success course. So with us today, we have Joe Cusio on the line, Dan Friedman, and Julie McLaughlin. And I'm so grateful not only for their time today, but really they have been just wonderful partners for me through the last several years of really getting to know them and sharing their wisdom with me about, kind of the success stories in the FYE world, the challenges in the FYE world as well. We're all kind of in this world together, and it's, as you know, a very challenging world to be in. So on the line, we have a couple of guests with us that I wanted to welcome. We have some folks from Seminole State College and also some folks from Front Range Community College. Who I invited to participate. I met them last week and we were having some really great conversations about the Student Success course. And then of course our primary group on the line is our Student Success course coordinators. So Joe, Dan, and Julie, just to give you a quick background about where we're at. If you can make sure that you mute your lines, that would be helpful. But I wanted to give Joe, Dan, and Julie just a quick kind of recap of where we've been. So I've been meeting with the Student Success course coordinators now. I think we had 4 full-day meetings, and we still have a couple more on our schedule, and we might need to do more than that. We spent our time primarily reimagining the Student Success course through the guided pathways kind of lens, and trying to figure out how we can make this course be the best that it can be. And really, we're taking an academic as well as a guided pathways approach to it to elevate the course and really make sure that we are creating this product that is worth kind of putting into the guided pathway. So to really make it a part of the path. The second piece that we need to work on really is how do we challenge ourselves, because as you know, all colleges are in different places with this course. Some are 1 credits, 2 credits, 3 credits. Some are required for all, and some are required for very small numbers of students. So under the Guided Pathways umbrella, we are really targeting, as a center and as a state, our mission is to try to get this course required for as many students as possible at as many colleges as possible, and really probably in that 3 credit version. But we want to hear from our experts. So I'm just going to turn it over to each person to just briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about some of the issues that bring us together today. So Joe, would you like to get us started and just share a brief background about yourself?
Okay, thanks, Christine. Mm-hmm. Welcome, everyone. And first, before I start talking about me, I just wanted to thank you for all the efforts that you're putting in to support your students. And I'm really excited to see the 2-year colleges engaged in the process, going to first-year experience conferences since the late 80s, and to see the 2-year representation increase dramatically, particularly over the last 10 years, is heartwarming. I really think what you're attempting to do is really has potentially powerful impact on the type of students that are served by community colleges. My background, I wish I could take credit for taking charge with respect to a first-year experience course. I was actually asked in 1981 by a couple of student life professionals when I was teaching in Iowa. I was at a four-year college at the time, and they said there's this course that's gaining national attention. We think our students can need it. They saw me as an ally, I guess, because they reached out to me when I was a new faculty member, which I think I take away lessons to that. If we want to get faculty involved in the student success movement, get to them early before they develop other habits. So they came to me to ask if I could possibly offer it as an elective in the psychology department, which is my discipline. And that got me started. Then a couple of years later, I took a job at a 2-year institution out here on the left coast, aka the land of fruit and nuts in Southern California. And they asked me to direct the program there, and I did that for about 28 years. 2-year college with a heavy transfer mission, and I wish I could say it was easy. There were a lot of challenges, as Christine said. We'd get buy-in, and then we'd have occasional faculty resistance. We fought about whether it should be elective or required. I maintained it as a required course because I just was afraid if I went with the elective route, those students who needed it the most who would elect not to take it. And, I'm quote retired now, which I believe just means RE-tired. I'm just tired all over again. I'm still working in the field. And I look back at my career and I'm really happy about the course, what impact it made on students, the alumni from those courses that still are in touch with me. So that's my background. I really, again, want to recommend you for doing this, whether it happens or not, or happens immediately or eventually. I think you're on the right path, and I suspect you're going to go to bed at night thinking that you're affecting the lives of students, for many years to come.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Dan, take it away.
All right, Dan, your turn, Dan.
Yeah, well, hello. Thanks for having me. My name is Dan Friedman, and I'm currently the director of University 101 programs at the University of South Carolina. Been working here for 8 years. Prior to that, I was directing the freshman seminar program at Appalachian State University. So been working for the last 20 years with first-year seminars at 2 different institutions. They're both 4-year, but I think a lot of what we've been doing will apply to your situation. And I'll just quickly echo Joe's words and congratulating you, thanking you for joining us in this work. It really is the most important work we can do in higher ed. And you can see the benefits. So we're looking forward to following your progress.
Thanks so much, Dan. Excellent. Julie, you're up. I know Julie doesn't have a webcam, but we'll go ahead and hear what Julie has to say.
Thanks, Christina. I want to echo what Joe and Dan said. Thank you for having us. I'm at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. I am professor and chair of our first year experience courses, so I oversee all of our FYE courses. Ours started 2001, so 16 years ago. We started a pilot of the course. At that time, we were on 9-week terms, and it was a 1-hour course. And we now are on semesters, and we have 3 options for the course: 1, 2, and 3 credit hours. And I'm happy to say that finally, this course has been mandatory since inception, but it was recommended the first semester, and starting summer, it will be mandatory the first semester.
Wow.
So we're excited, and the journey never ends. So those of you that are just starting, we're using continuous quality improvement and always looking at our courses and how they can be better.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much for those introductions. I'm going to just pause for 1 second just to provide a little context again for the course process that we're using here in New Jersey. So the Center for Student Success works with all 19 community colleges, and our goal really is to improve the successful experiences and outcomes of our community college students. And you can see in front of you the guiding principles are really about engaging students and engaging really even just colleagues and collaborating with one another, using data to drive our decisions, and also to get involved in advocacy and policy development. And using this guided pathways framework, you'll see the student success course is actually specified on the onboarding component, where we're helping students choose a path. I see a great fit here for using the student success course really as a vehicle to help students engage in some of that career exploration and build some of the skills that they need so that they will be successful on that path. There are 13 states that have centers like New Jersey. So we are very, very fortunate to be a part of a larger network. And that's where some of the colleagues that I mentioned earlier from Front Range and Seminole State, we met at a national gathering from, their colleges from across the nation, really looking at the so really excited to have everybody here. And I want to now dive into some of the challenges that we are experiencing as we started to talk about it at our meetings that we've been having. I would say that one of the biggest issues really in terms of trying to get it required for all, which in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most of my course coordinators, is really the goal, is to get it to required of all students. If we want it to really be a part of the path, we're not doing guided pathways for a few of our students. We should be doing guided pathways for all of our students. So if we see it as essential, we have to figure out how to make that happen. And I think one of the most challenging situations is, where does it fit? You certainly have issues related to financial aid. You have issues that there's so many credits already, a lot of pressure to reduce credits, and what is going to give in order to get this into the curriculum. So we'll start with that topic. I don't know who wants to begin, Joe, Dan, or Julie. Who would like to start?
May I suggest, Julie, Dan, no disrespect, but since you've been managing to fit your course at Cincinnati State into the curriculum, in a tight curriculum which is being encountered by the New Jersey folks, how did you manage to get the course into the curriculum despite the constraints on getting students in, getting them out, and 60-unit caps? What went on in Cincinnati? Could you share that, please?
So for the first 12 years, we used an end around, and we made it a graduation requirement. So it was not in the curriculum, it was a graduation requirement. But eventually, the Ohio Board of Regents caught on to that and said, nope, you're adding additional units. So we had to put it into our curriculum. The good news was, though, at that time, we had data that showed that students who successfully completed the course their first semester were retained and persisted at higher rates than those who did not take it, as well as our overall persistence and retention rate. So because of that, our AVP and provost said, you have to find a way to put this in the curriculum. So now the way we get around it, we have a 1 credit, 2 credit, and 3 credit hour course. And so what it says in most of the curriculums is FYE 1 star for 1 credit hour, but they can take any of the 3 courses. So the course that's in the curriculum is the 1 credit hour, but they can take any of the 3. We were never going to get the 3-hour course into the curriculum, but it is the course we offer the most sections of and the course that most students take, and it is the best of the 3 courses.
Thanks, Julie.
Julie, then
Go ahead,
I'm
Joe.
sorry, just clarification. Is it an elective course or is it required now?
It is now required in all of our degrees.
And where does it fit in? I mean, I know the New Jersey folks are concerned about what program does it fit into? Where would it be housed? What department? I hope I'm not getting ahead of ourselves here, but where is it fitting?
The actual course, we are actually in humanities and sciences. So
okay.
It's FYE first year experience, and we are in humanities and sciences.
Okay, thanks.
Is it a Gen Ed, or no? Is it Gen Ed, or
that was my next
of an elective in that category?
It's elective.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it seems like the 4-year schools are more likely to have it as a requirement and more likely to also have it as a Gen Ed, according to a lot of the national data that I've seen, through the survey and all. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to any of the, other issues or other colleges that they've worked with to really kind of get a sense of, I mean, these are issues that we're all struggling with, I mean, they're very tough. It's so much easier, I think, when you're at a 4-year school and you have more control over the curriculum. At the 2-year level, obviously, we need to be serving students who are going to many different 4-year schools, and their requirements vary significantly.
Right.
I wish I had something profound to offer here. I mean, I think these challenges that's the reason you're calling it a challenge. I will say one philosophical thing, and that is oftentimes I see institutions try to create these courses, and the only way to get them through and to get them to count is to change the very nature of why you're designing it in the first place, to make it palatable, saleable, whatever, and it ends up becoming something different than the original intention. And so I would say as you're trying to move these courses into the curriculum, be very clear about what it is you're trying to accomplish, and try not to move off of that.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, Dan? Because I think that's a really important point, that sometimes we get so wrapped up in that must be required that you lose the integrity of what you initially were trying to accomplish in order to, get that buy-in from others. So can you say a little bit more about what you see as being some of the key elements of the course and how some folks may have gone astray?
Well, I think, for example, when you think about the typology of first-year seminars, and you have your extended orientation or student success course, which I think is what we're talking about here, you've got discipline-specific first-year seminars, you've got the basic study skills seminar, and you've got the academic theme seminar. And I think oftentimes we design these courses based on what faculty want to teach rather than the course that students need to take.
Mm-hmm.
They do that because that's easier to sell to faculty, to get it through Faculty Senate and make it appropriate for the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But it sort of dilutes the extended orientation and student success pieces. I think there are ways to do both, to have the appropriate level of rigor and challenge in an extended orientation student success course. But I would be very leery of giving up what it's designed to do just so you can get it through into the curriculum, because then you've created something completely different anyway.
Thank
I
you.
just want to agree with Dan that because once you have it through, it's going to be that much harder to change and get what you want. So try to do it right the first time and don't compromise in areas you really don't want to.
Yeah, and I would just like to reinforce both of my, quote, fellow experts on a panel here. And I don't know if this is the time or the place, or eventually we might want to talk about what is rigor anyway.
Yeah.
What makes a core. I think we can have our cake and eat it too. I think some of the holistic topics that we know are critical for student success can be addressed in a very rigorous fashion through writing, reflection, intense discussion, metacognition. It's a false dichotomy, I believe, in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And as Dan said, a dangerous one when you end up doing something that's just politically viable to get it through, when our original intent was to promote the success of our students, which we know requires a holistic approach that includes both academic skill building and psychosocial support, a sense of direction. I think we can have all three with some intentionality. Writing, for example, reflective thinking. We can build that into the students can think critically about their future just as much as they can think critically about a piece of scientific research or a piece of literature. But I think Dan and Julie's caveat is worth being mindful of as we move forward. The ultimate objective here is to promote student success, and we want to be able to make that happen politically, but not to the extent that we shoot ourselves in the foot and not to achieve the objective that we were initially seeking.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, because it actually ties direct. We just had a full day meeting on Tuesday, and this was the very topic that we were talking about, was really the rigor of the course and differentiating it from supportive services, that it's really an academic course. So, we can still address many of the soft skills and the key issues of time management, critical thinking, goal setting, career exploration, all of those things that sometimes are viewed as, not academic enough topics, which we can certainly have a debate upon. But we can do that, as you just pointed out, Joe, in a very academic way, in an academic manner, to really help build their skills at the same time academically, and the hard and the soft kind of at the same time. So I really think that's a critical point. Thank you for bringing that up. It's great to be validated. That's what we were just talking about on Tuesday. So I'm actually going to jump around just a little bit, because Dan brought up, you mentioned the different types of courses, and you mentioned discipline specific, and you can see on the slide that that's one of the questions that we had. With the Guided Pathways framework, there's a lot of conversation nationally about creating courses that are specific to the meta major. So we have these kind of broader categories. The goal is really trying to help students, if they're not sure, of a specific career, what general path might they want to take. And many folks are arguing, or making the case that it's a good idea to come up with FYE specific courses. And then there's, of course, folks out there saying, well, wait a minute, that may not be the best idea, or maybe we need kind of a hybrid version. I'd be very interested to hear what you folks think about the discipline versus more general focus classes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Julie, do you want to take us? Yeah. And then
Julie,
Dan,
the first thing I would say is know your campus. There's data out there, I believe, that can kind of favor either way, but know your campus. I know on my campus, if we did that, it would become intro to engineering and there would be no FYE in it. So you have to know your campus. And it would not work at our campus in our current state. Now, 15 years down the road, maybe when some of our long-term faculty have retired, might it work? Possibly. But right now, we would lose the course if we went discipline specific, and I know that. So for us, we are not going discipline specific, and there is something to be said about the diversity of majors in the classroom and what that brings to the table. On the flip, there's also something to be said of having similar majors in the classroom. So I personally find that you first have to start with your campus and what you know may or may not work on your campus. I think Dan can probably speak more to the data, I'm thinking.
Well, I can speak to it from here in App State. So last fall, we offered 220 sections of our course in the fall, and 120 of those would be general sections, and 100 of them would have been either major or program specific. When we look at the kind of compare the courses, we don't see any difference one way or the other that one outperforms or underperforms the other. So I feel good about that. So it becomes sort of a what's the pro and the con. First, to say that I'm very clear when departments approach me about wanting to have sections for their majors, that this is not an intro to their college or to a specific department, that this is University 101, it belongs to the university. And the way I get instructors to think about it is, will this course still be useful to that student if he or she changes their major, halfway through the course? And the answer has to be yes. If it's yes, it's being designed wrong. It needs to be useful to a student no matter what their major is. One of the benefits, I think, of having it focused, and I think, it depends on what we mean by discipline specific, because the content of the course may have a lens, but it's still going to be University 101 material. It just so happens that the 19 students in that class are all the same major. So the benefits there, obviously, are they get to make friends with 18 people in their major. They get to make a connection with a faculty or staff member in that college or department that can be a mentor for 4 years and beyond. But on the flip side, they're going to spend a lot of time with those folks over 4 years, and it's really nice to be able to meet people outside of their discipline or maybe get exposed to different ideas just in case they're not fully sold on their major. So I like the discipline-specific ones in the sense that when we're talking about topics like employability or career readiness or advising or campus policies, that you can be more specific because the possibilities are a bit more constrained. But again, when I go back to the data, in terms of the 23 factors that we measure, we don't see a difference one way or the other. So we're going to continue to offer both. It is easier sometimes to get faculty and staff involved in teaching the class if it is major specific. Our issue is not so much attracting people, because we have way more people who are interested in teaching than we have sections for. But our challenge is getting approval from a supervisor to teach the course. And when the department chair says yes to this advisor, they can teach this class, knowing that it's for students in their college makes it a little bit easier to sell.
Great points. Thank
but
you.
I would say one of the last thing is I would absolutely not decentralize this down to the college and departments and let them run it. You will lose it, and it will have no consistency or true meaning across campus. So be careful with that.
Yeah, I agree with Dan completely.
If I could just reinforce mostly what everyone says, my position, at least in my writing, has always been to guard the holism. I'm afraid of faculty takeover, as Dan just suggested. And don't get me wrong, I'm a faculty member. My best friends are faculty members, but sometimes you have to forgive us because we know not what we do. We are discipline-driven, content-driven. And so I think, when we say discipline-specific versus extended orientation, I like to call it holistic seminar to get at the fact that it's not just academic success that matters. I think maybe it's not an either or. That dichotomy might be too strong. I think the training, the selection of instructors may make a difference. We may need to be intentional about recruiting instructors, even if we offer it discipline specific, that seem to have a holistic sensitivity, that the preparation for teaching the course should underscore both discipline specific and I would say thematic success skills. And that includes general education skills like writing, speaking. If you look at what employers want, we need to start selling those transferable general ed skills as career preparation skills. So I would argue that I certainly would think in New Jersey, if you're looking, another one of your issues, Julie, is the, Christine, is this issue of where do we house this, and it has to be tied to a program for students to even have financial aid coverage. It seems to me that the discipline-specific model might make that task a little easier if you can tie it to an already established degree program, as long as we build in the safeguards that we do not lose the holistic focus. And that could be through the use of common assignments. Everyone's going to be doing an educational plan. And I would say maybe part of that plan would be Plan B. I have to defer to Julie and Dan on this, but my students, even with a meta major, they're still confused. They're going to come in with, so, let's have them do a plan. But as part of that plan would be, what would be Plan B if your first term grades indicate that maybe engineering or pre-med is not a good fit for you? And okay, you offer that in a discipline specific, allied health field, meta major or STEM meta major. But part of the planning should be the Plan B. And I think this is reinforcing what Dan said about sensitivity to, that this may not be their final course of study. I guess what I would be after here is a training, if you do go discipline specific, that would certainly identify the theme that discipline or meta area is focusing on, but also the variations on the themes, things that are involving transferable, durable skills that are applicable across all majors. And again, I may be Pollyannish, but I think with the right instructor selection and training, we might minimize some of the historic disadvantages of discipline specific, where faculty just start doing their own thing and they turn it into yet, as Julie said, another intro to the major course rather than a truly student-centered, not discipline-centered course is what ultimately we want to preserve here.
Great. Thank you so much. This is a really, this is a great dialogue. I wanted to, if you don't mind, I wanted to jump in with a couple of observations that I've seen, and then I have a couple of follow-up questions. So from talking to folks at FYE conferences over the years, I think that one of the attractive features, and I think, Dan, you kind of alluded to this a minute ago, is that you can get faculty buy-in easier with the discipline specific. I was at a session, this is probably going back 4 or 5 years ago now. And I remember this session so vividly because the presenters were so excited about their theme-based, major-based courses because they were so passionate about their discipline. So that passion kind of helped them recruit and get faculty. And then on their campus, they were having difficulty doing that. So that was definitely a positive. However, someone in the audience kind of, jumped up and said something that was equally powerful and pretty significant in my mind. And she said, wait a minute, is this about us being excited about our students? We have to be cautious. It's great that you are having all this enthusiasm. But she said, one of the things that, the research shows is that critical thinking is more likely to develop when you are interacting with people who are different from you. So you're going to already be in all of these very, major specific courses. And as a first semester student, we really want to try to, build those critical thinking skills. And I wonder if we're doing a service or a disservice was really the question that she was asking. That really got me thinking a little bit about the homogeneous versus heterogeneous. I've been trying to pull some of that data, and I'll be summarizing, what I pull for everybody here in New Jersey. I'll share share, and for our guests too. They are certainly more than welcome to have it as well. But I think that, as Dan said it in the beginning, I think it's kind of hit or miss. You can find data either way. And I think that goes back to what Joe was just emphasizing. It's probably the teacher in front of you that matters the most, and the training that we give that teacher or professor that really matters. So that brings me to my follow-up question. How do we decide who is qualified to teach this course? This is a really, tough question, if it's not a discipline specific. And I guess I also am interested, Dan, I guess this one would be for you. For the discipline specific, is it essential that a faculty member from that discipline teach it, or could a professional advisor or someone else that has some expertise but not, maybe not necessarily a higher, degree in that subject matter? So I wanted to hear a little bit about, characteristics of professors, of what we should be looking for. And then the second follow-up also you can think about is, where is it housed? If it's discipline specific, we talked about housing it in those areas. But if it's not, I know Julie said yours is housed in humanities and social sciences, but what are some of the pros and cons of different places where it might get housed? So I'll open those two questions up and see who wants to take it.
I'm going to jump in first because my short-term memory, I might forget what I'm going to say, Julie, if you start saying it. And I'll do this quickly. I always insisted, and again, once you get sort of tenure, I can guess people didn't want to challenge me anymore. But I always really felt it was an advantage to have a variety of instructors teaching the course. It built collaboration across campus. There were some faculty who, pulled a pedigree badge. They don't have a PhD in this area. But gosh, we have professional advisors all across the country who are advising engineering students, biology students who are not faculty in those disciplines, yet they provide professional advising for students in pre-professional majors. So to pick up on your question, who teaches the course, I would like to open it up for anyone who has the interest, the passion, and the willingness to participate in the training. Some of our best instructors were not traditionally faculty instructors, in part because they weren't wedded to the lecture method. I mean, they already had, they didn't have to unlearn that teaching style in a course that's, student-centered and focuses on engaging pedagogy. So I would argue, just as we would in the training, if you were having a discipline-based faculty, they need training on how to teach transferable skills and how to deal with the student in a holistic manner. I think some of the folks who are not in the traditional discipline, like academic advisors, student support professionals, library science professionals, they have skills to bring to the table that the typical discipline-based faculty do not have. And they may need to learn a little bit more about the discipline, but I would argue that I would love to see a team approach selecting instructors and training them, the dialogue and the diversity of perspectives and the sense of campus community that starts to develop when you have people in different divisions and different programs all pursuing the same cause. That's an outcome of what you're doing that may be hard to measure, but it can affect campus culture at large. And I know I'm not being very succinct here, but Christine, I would argue let's open it up if possible. That would give you more options. The training would be essential. Both discipline-based faculty and non-discipline-based faculty would have something to learn to teach the discipline-based course for different reasons. The non-discipline-based faculty, we need to learn about the transferable skills, holistic focus. That they would know that. It's the discipline-based faculty would need to do that. And those who are not in the discipline would need just to pick up some knowledge about the discipline, which already goes on with, professional advisors who are advising students in disciplines that they don't necessarily have a terminal degree. I'm sorry that took so long. Julie or Dan, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Joe 100%. I think one of the saddest battles that people have to fight on a campus is over who gets to teach a course like this. And I always tell folks that you really need to make the decision based on a person's qualification, not their classification. And classifications are fluid anyway. I mean, I was a tenure track faculty member, and I gave that up to go back into administration. I'm not somehow less qualified the next day.
Or more qualified if you go from one to the other, right?
Yeah, right. And so the benefits to the institution and to the staff and administrators who teach are going to pay you dividends that you don't even expect were going to be there. And that's what's going to give the program life over a long period of time. Everyone is going to know it and champion for it and be an advocate for it. If you silo it and make it this expensive thing, you can't possibly integrate it into the fabric of the institution in the way that you want to and need to. So getting everybody who's qualified to teach and has, I always look at disposition rather than, any kind of specific degree. I mean, it's about wanting to help students in a non-judgmental way, helping them where they are, and willingness to learn along with them, willingness to use the active learning strategies, and that they understand that it's not about information distribution. It's about helping students make meaning of their. Because if you're simply trying to give your students information, you don't need this course. You can, do something online. You can, just give them a pamphlet. But that's not how people learn. That's not what makes a difference in a course like this. It's talking with their peers about important subject matter that's going to lead them to the behaviors and the knowledge gains that you want and expect. So we've been alluding to, and I hope we'll have more time later to talk about faculty development, because that is the essential key to making all of this work. So just getting the right people in the room, not based just on degrees, but on that disposition.
So I will just piggyback on, I agree with Joe and Dan completely. Some of my best people, one of my best instructors is a financial aid advisor. The people who are in the trenches working with the students every day. So I agree, degrees, I want active learning. I tell my instructors during the development, if you're gonna read from a PowerPoint, this isn't the class for you. But one thing we did a few years ago, we obviously have to have quite a few adjuncts teach as well because of our size and it being mandatory. And about 3 years ago, we made it mandatory that you had to be employed at Cincinnati State for a year before you could go through the training to teach our course. And that has cut down on so many issues with our instructors, because if you're teaching about how to be successful here, but you don't know anything about here, you're giving students incorrect information and it doesn't go well. So that's one of the best things we did, is that anyone who wants to teach has to be employed here, whether it's an adjunct or a full-time person, for a minimum of a year before they can go through the instructor development for the course.
Interesting.
And Christine and Julie, can I quickly add, when an adjunct does teach the course, and I mean, we do want full-time faculty and full-time professional staff involved. We need a core critical mass of them. But when an adjunct who's committed and passionate and dedicated, they not only benefit students, they end up, as a result of teaching the course, knowing the campus better. They make better referrals. They know the students better. The wait time to get them in is important, but even after they get in and start teaching, it's a way of integrating adjuncts into the fabric of the institution and positioning them to do other things for the institution and for students better. They just know the campus better, they refer better, and I think it helps them as faculty members in general, even in their own discipline, in their own teaching, in their content-specific areas.
Yeah, we see that. We kind of research this every year on our campus, and we see those exact things. We see them with our staff. Our staff who teach this course report that they have a greater sense of satisfaction with the university, a greater awareness of all of the resources. They've got a greater sense of vitality. The number of people who say, I stay here at USC because I get to teach University 101. It's their favorite thing that they get to do every day. But they make better decisions in their role as an administrator because they're more aware and sensitive to the issues that are facing students. For the faculty who teach in us, they say that makes them a better teacher in their home department, and they're now utilizing teaching strategies, these interactive methods that make them a better teacher in their home department. So it's kind of thing when you're investing in it, really isn't just for the students, it really is making the whole university or your institution, college better.
Excellent. Well, thank you. This is really fabulous. What about the housing issue of where it should be housed? If it's not a discipline, I mean, and not all the discipline-specific courses are always housed in the discipline either. So, I don't know, Julie, if you want to talk about how it landed and where it landed at your institution in the humanities, it's humanities and social sciences area. Maybe we could start with that example, and then you can talk maybe
Sure.
about any other examples you know about, nationally.
Sure. We just knew to get buy-in from our faculty, it had to be in one of the academic divisions. And obviously humanities made the best sense. Our others are engineering, business, and health. So it was really to gain faculty buy-in, but I would say wherever you house it, keep it at that one central location. I think Dan referred to that earlier. If you let it be housed in those discipline specifics, it is much more likely that you will lose control of the course. So whatever you do, I would house it somewhere centrally.
Okay, great. Joe or Dan, do you have any other thoughts or ideas on that topic?
I mean, I think conceptually, where is it going to get the most support? Where is it going to have the greatest visibility? Where is it going to have a champion who's going to advocate for it? I think the majority, without knowing the players and without knowing the structure, I think the default is, well, it should report. The ideal situation, I would tell people, is that it reports directly to the provost as its own standalone entity. Now, that may not be a reality at many places. And in fact, on our campus, we report to the vice president for student affairs, who's also the vice provost. So we're sort of kind of a dual reporting line through academic affairs and student affairs. But our vice president for student affairs is one of the most powerful people on this campus. He's been around for 35 years, who was trusted and respected. And really people, are just looking to him for advice and not questioning it. So that's our best case. Reporting to the provost wouldn't be our best scenario, even though on paper that, in theory would give it the greatest legitimacy. So who's going to be able to have a voice that's trusted across campus? Mm-hmm. Of course, now that changes. People retire. And so
right.
you don't want to build a system around personalities.
Right. Right.
So thinking about that, long term.
All right. Thank you. Any other thoughts on that, Joe?
I was reading about there was a Canadian lady who did her dissertation on the origin of University 101 at the University of South Carolina. I think her name was Elsie Watts. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that dissertation and some of the early struggles that happened at South Carolina, one of which is, where do we put this course? We don't have a home for it. And I think they ended up, a freestanding University 101 department. Yeah. Some schools have their own FYE officer program. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of it housed in University College. I don't think that's common in the community college context, but that's sort of a place for undecided students, general ed offerings, standalone department. We were lucky at our college to have an interdisciplinary program. So our course had the number of ID 117, or interdisciplinary course. In California, most of the student success courses are offered through the counseling program. Mm-hmm. So they're all over the board. I don't have the national experience that Dan has, but the problem that you're struggling with certainly is not peculiar to New Jersey. And apparently there are a lot of ways to skin the cat. Mm-hmm. I wish I had a magic bullet, but there's certainly a lot of options out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. I'm gonna backtrack. We started to talk about this actually in the very beginning of the conversation, so I want to revisit it again and dive a little bit deeper into this topic, because I think it really is one of the key issues that we're struggling with. Is if we, I'm going to tie these two in together. So this topic we haven't really talked specifically about, although we've kind of hinted around, and it's the credibility factor. Do folks believe this is a real course? We're talking, across the campus. We're talking from the student perspective, from the parent perspective, and that credibility factor, I think, makes it even more challenging to bring us back to the other conversation that I wanted to bring us back to, which is how do we fit it into the program, and why would a faculty, body want to say yes to this if it means they have to take something else out that they think is credible and worthy. So could we address those kind of credibility issues? And going back to that space issue again, I know Julie did talk to us about how she did it on her campus, but I'd like to hear some other examples or, just some other information that you might have on those two topics.
Well, just to get us started, and please, I don't have all the answers here. I'm going to look at all the different constituents you've listed, Christine. Administrators, it seems money matters to them, and this could be certainly a revenue-generating operation. Success rates matter, pride in that. I am tired of hearing about how community colleges are not succeeding. We have the least resources to do it, the most at-risk students. I think if we want to show administrators we're up for this challenge, this is one way to meet that challenge. So if we're looking seriously at increasing retention rates, completion rates, and I would even argue time to degree completion would all be outcomes that would appeal to administrators. And, Noah Levitz actually even has that formula. If you retain X number of students, you plug it back in, and how does that translate into dollars? What's the expression? To catch a fish, think like a fish. How do administrators think? Seems to me money, bragging rights. I always want to go to a cocktail party with presidents, see what they were talking about. But their retention, completion rates, I would play that card with them. With faculty, the card I play, listen, I want to get better prepared students in your class. I want students to know how to take notes, ask good questions. We're not going to say, did I miss anything in class last time? I mean, we prepare them for all that. We ask them, we help them develop the art of asking a good question, netiquette, how to use faculty office hours effectively. What faculty member wouldn't want a better prepared student in their class unless they're masochistic? And as far as students go, I think we need to be more intentional about this not being a Mickey Mouse course, that these are life skills that we're teaching them, the career readiness skills. You got it tied nicely into educational planning. This is their success plan, their roadmap or journey map to success. This is not a college survival course. I think the title will matter. This is much more than that. This is much more than an academic adjustment to college. It's the transition through college and beyond to their realization of their personal and professional goals. And I would argue for parents who are also listed there. I know at University of South Carolina, they recruit parents as allies to help students take the course. I was at the University of Tampa. They use their course very effectively in parent orientation. Parents love the fact that they are offering a course for their new students to help them make the transition to college. They're concerned about their moving away from home and adjusting to the post-secondary culture. But even at community colleges with a commuter student base, if I were a parent of a first-generation student with nobody in my family who's ever been to college, I would relish an institution that says we're going to help give your student the tools to success and to navigate a higher education environment. We're providing for them the social capital, the cultural capital, the college knowledge that they don't have at home. To me, I think those are marketing strategies that we can use to appeal to parents and their families.
Yeah.
I know, this is Julie, I know in Ohio we have gone from enrollment funding to much more success-based funding, and that is kind of what made the turn to go mandatory, because we have the data that's, as I said earlier, and so not only do we as a school need that funding, but each of the individual programs then wants to see success rates for their programs. So that's when you push the retention and persistence data, and people start saying, oh, well, I need these successful students in my program. That also works with the parents as well. And then for the students, we take student testimonials from the evaluations, because students don't understand about persistence and retention, but they do understand what other students have to say about the course and how helpful the course was and how they wish they would have taken it sooner or something like that. So Joe's right. It is economically, it's money, but there's residual money based on the retention and persistence as well, and especially with more and more states going to success-based funding.
Yeah, and I think your successes will start to compound and build on each other, and down the road, it becomes just word of mouth, and you have faculty telling faculty, hey, this is a great experience for our students, and you have students recommending the course to the next crop of students. So it becomes a lot easier when you build it right, you get off on the right foot, and you'll see those successes multiply.
Great.
And Christine, real quick, I don't want to forget, community colleges, we've been wonderful on access. I mean, I've been to some other countries, and they're often curious about how we've been able to do access here so well. I mean, the community college is an American invention. It's, what do we call it? The Ellis Island of the higher education system. That's the beauty of what the community colleges stand for. It's the success part that we need to tag on to the access part. It's the access without success that's been the criticism of what otherwise is just such a laudable system of higher education in this country. And I don't know if this is a card to play with administrators or policy makers, but let's take some pride in the community college history, what we've done to ensure access to the entire American population, opportunity for the American dream. Now we just need to finish the equation by tacking on the success. And what your initiative is directly addressing the success part of the equation that has historically been missing.
Absolutely. So you all are talking about, I think, a very important issue, which is that this course can successfully impact the lives of students in so many ways. The retention, the GPA, the increased self-confidence, the increased soft skills, and all of those things. I know a lot of my success coordinators are looking for some data that kind of speaks to, we know it works, but where can they go and look for some hard data to bring to those administrators and to bring to others? So I don't know if anyone is willing to either share. I know you've mentioned kind of and hinted at some of the data that you've had at your own institution, or some of the national data, or point us in the right direction. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in quickly first, again, because of the hyperactive New York thing. Just today, on the FYS, well, it was yesterday, someone requested data, and I went back. I've been sort of hoarding. I have this kind of hoarding instinct or OCD thing, and I've been sort of collecting the data, much of it coming out of the National Resource Center, all the way going back to Betsy Barefoot's time there and John Gardner's time. And I've tried to stay on top of it, and I do have that all pulled together. I just finished reading last night the lead article in the latest issue of the Journal of College and Student Retention, was research on the impact of the first-year seminar, a holistic approach, but infusing rigor, as we've been talking about it, and its dramatic impact on male students, first-generation students, and underrepresented students of color, specifically those subpopulations in terms of both persistence and retention and academic performance. For example, fewer students on academic probation as a result of taking this course. The data keeps flowing in. Some of it is institution specific, and Julie's got some, of course the USC has some. And then you have these national reviews by Pasquarello and Terenzini. I tend to go the Italian guys first, but there are others who are reviewing the research. And you got those doing the meta-analyses and cross-institutional research. So however you want to cut it, cross-institutionally or campus-specific. And I would appeal to Julie and Dan for help with community college specific data, but I know it's out there and growing. I have some of them in the document that I'm happy to share with the group, maybe through email later. But there seems to be a growing amount of data collecting going on at two-year institutions as well.
Yeah. And Christine, I can send you, I have a document that sort of summarizes, I'm sure it's not as exhaustive as Joe's, but it's basically just a couple page review of the empirical literature that on the Success of First Year seminar. So I can send that to you and you can circulate it. And I know that there was, this is probably 10 years ago now, but that massive study in Florida of the community colleges that had involved 30,000 students and had some pretty profound findings. So, but can I go ahead and share my screen here? Is this the time?
Go for it. Yeah, let's make it happen.
All right. Well, it says I can't do it while you're doing it.
All right, I'm hitting stop right now.
All right.
Okay, you're on.
All right. All right.
Well, Chris, there you go. Wonderful.
So let me, so these are some data, and I'll send this link out to Christine as well so people can play around with it. This is just a draft of a website that we're developing, but I mean, what these data suggest is that, you know, students who take University 101 are retained at a significantly higher level than those who don't. They graduate at higher levels, they have more credits earned, and they have higher first year GPAs after their 30 credit hours. These data to me aren't particularly interesting or useful. It's when you start drilling down into subpopulations. Here's the retention, here's the GPA. These data are very misleading because what they don't tell you is that students who are taking this course actually have lower predicted GPAs than non-participants, because the majority of our non-participants are in our honors college. And we have the #1 public honors college in the country. I think their average SAT score is a 1450. So they're really skewing the data in that way. But you'll see the most important one here, finishing. The 6-year graduation rate for our students is significantly higher. But as we drill down and, you know, take those honors college students out of the equation, where did my data go? Here's the retention rate. You know, the retention rate jumps from 2% to 7%. Or you look at Pell Grant recipients, so some of our lower income. We're actually very high on this campus. You'll see 90% retention rate. That's because of our phenomenal work happening with our TRIO program. Let's see. For our same thing, well, let's see. Let me do this most recent data. You know, we see the same thing with first generation students, higher rates. Looks like all I have there is, see, this is all a test phase here of this website. And then lowest predicted GPA quintiles. So this is a function of their high school grades, their class rank, and their standardized test score. And we make them into quintiles. And then when you look at the lowest 20%, there's some profound differences between participants and non-participants. So there's this table or graph you see here is the retention rates. You'll see our GPA differential for those low achieving students. Time, I mean, that ranges from, you know, 20% to, you know, average about 10% a year. So we're seeing some pretty significant findings for the kinds of students that I imagine will be taking this at a 2-year institution.
So just remind me, Dan, tell us about who takes I know you said it's not required, so tell us a little bit about the student body that takes the course, because you have so many sections.
Right, we have about 80% of our freshman class will take the course. So that's 4,000 students. Of those 4,000, about 1,000 of them are required to do so, either by their academic major or by a program that they're affiliated with. We have a program called Capstone Scholars, which is sort of just a step below the Honors College. They're required to take it, and our TRIO students are required to take it. But for everybody else, they're taking it as an elective. It usually fits into the degree program as an elective, but the majority of our students are coming in with AP credit, and that's usually the way they make it work, is they place out of a class and then they can sub that course in even if there's no wiggle room, which is true for our engineering majors and our music majors.
Great, thank you, excellent.
All right, did I stop sharing this?
You did. Julie, did you want me to bring any of your screens up that you wanted to see before, or no?
If you wanted to bring up that second document, that has some of our data on it.
Okay. Oh, I gotta just go. I have it on my screen, but I gotta go share my screen. Hang on a second. I gotta get back to the share my screen section. You stopped sharing, right, Dan? I think it's on the bottom now. Hang on. I gotta go chase the button. I have this on top of it. Share screen. Okay. Is it coming? Can you see it now?
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can see at the bottom of the first page, the persistence rate and retention rate there for students who complete it with a C or better versus students who don't take it versus the overall college-wide.
Julie, could you read those for me? My vision is impaired.
I'll make it bigger. Is that
Sure,
help a
so-
little bit?
Oh, that's a little better. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so the fall 2013 cohort, the persistence rate was 23% approximately better than the college overwide college, and over 30% better than students who did not take FYE. And the fall to fall retention was 18% better than college overall, and 27% better than students who did not take the course. And similar data for the fall 14 cohort. And it's that kind of data that allowed us to get the course to be mandatory the first semester.
Excellent. Okay, so we're done with that screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll just leave that one up again. Well, this is really helpful. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add about data before we switch topics?
Christine, of all the challenges you've listed, to me, this is the least challenging. I mean, the data are just, tell me any other course in the history of higher education that has been researched as rigorously as the first year experience course. I cannot name one. Just the power of tradition ensures their perpetual place in the curriculum. We've had to prove over and over and over when this course makes this. Now, they're not all created equal. There are some that show no results, but the body of research is just unassailable or incontrovertible, whatever the term is. This is, to me, a no-brainer. I've never seen a first-year experience course that has had an adverse or inverse effect on student success. I mean, the very worst that can happen is breaking even, and even that's minimal. The opportunity of people to get together, talk about success, build some sense of common purpose. I don't see any downside. And if you're looking for evidence in support of any program, I would even say program beyond courses, I don't think there's any better empirically supported educational initiative than the first year experience course. And I challenge all those. Well, aren't we even challenging whether algebra should be required for non-STEM majors? I mean, that's an example of something. We never had data on that. We just assumed that algebra was good for everyone. Now we're starting to think, well, maybe we need to take a look at that. I mean, but that's so unusual to have a traditional course ever be reassessed. The first year experience course, maybe because it's necessity being the mother of invention or documentation, we've had to prove that this course works. So a long-winded way of saying, to me, this is, of all the challenges, the one that's most easily addressed.
Yeah.
I would agree.
But there's a big, the only caveat that I would offer there is that, there's a big difference between doing something and doing it well. And don't just think that you can roll out a first year seminar and not invest in it and see the benefits and the gains. You really have to, it's going to take work to make it happen. And that work's going to be getting the right people, making sure they are prepared, and all of the other support along the way in the care and nurturing of the course. So it needs attention, it needs leadership, and it needs an investment of time and energy.
And that actually brings me to, I wanted to talk a little bit more about that very issue of we talked about what the right person looks like. Once we identify that right person, we as a state, as I said already, we're spending a significant amount of time trying to get the right curriculum. So we're trying to make sure the learning outcomes and the topics and all are where we want, having clear vision. We're using a backwards design model. So once you have the right person, the right curriculum, talk to us a little bit about training. How much training do you think, I know we did talk and touch upon this earlier, but I want to dive a little deeper into that. So what are the training needs? What's the frequency? What does it look like? I know you do a lot of training, Dan, so I don't know if you want to start with it.
I would love to. And as I can't undersay this enough, is that, the success of this course is going to, the course is only as good as the person teaching it.
That's right.
And you've got to invest in that. And what I'm going to show you may look a little overwhelming or daunting or say we can't do that, you can do this. What you're seeing here looks robust, and it is very robust, but it's not cost intensive. It's just time intensive. And so, let me.
You want to share your screen again?
Yeah, let me pull up my screen.
I'm going to stop so you can. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So that
Yes.
is our faculty development model. And in order for anybody to even apply, per se, to teach, or before they can teach a section of our course, they have to attend this 3-day workshop. It's called the Teaching Experience Workshop, and we have been offering it for 44 years on this campus. In fact, when this course was founded in 1972, as a result of some riots that happened in the spring of 1970, the main purpose wasn't just having a dialogue between faculty and students. The main purpose, and the president and the committee that put it together, was having a way to prepare faculty for how to teach students. And it was really some of the beginning of that happening in higher education. And so at that time, it was a 7-day workshop. But I want to explain why you're seeing this cyclical model. Our course our conceptual framework is that we want to give our students resources and the support they need when they need it, but also when they're ready for it. And when somebody needs something and when they're ready for it may not be the same time. And so rather than front load, you don't bring a student to your campus for 7 days early, give them everything they need to know, and then say, "Go, good luck, go be successful." So we wouldn't do that with our first year seminar is not organized that way. So our faculty development efforts shouldn't be organized that way either. So we have a 3-day workshop at the beginning where we talk about who are our students, what are we trying to accomplish with this course, what are the best practices for teaching and learning in a first year seminar. So we cap the workshop at 20 because our class is capped at 19, and we're going to role model many of those activities and learning strategies that they would use in their first year seminar. And then we talk about how do you create meaningful assignments that students will enjoy doing and that won't be busy work, but that will give you a sense of that they're doing what they're able to, or what you want them to do. How do you put the syllabus together, and then how do you develop community throughout the semester, which we haven't talked about, but from our research is the #1 predictor of their decision to stay in college, is their social integration and sense of belonging. Now, I don't know if that's a 4-year phenomenon, but that was true at Appalachian State and at the University of South Carolina. So they leave that workshop not with everything that they need to know, but with the foundation to begin building. And the assumption that you make if you have a one-time training is that, if I went through a training 10 years ago, that I'm still up to date on the latest and greatest. All of our major professions have ongoing professional development. Doctors, CPAs, lawyers, because the field changes. So if we're going to take ourselves seriously as a profession, I think we need to hold ourselves to the same standard. So we're taking them around this circle here where I'm going to see all my instructors together in a syllabus preparation workshop. And there are multiple times they can choose from. I offer it 8 times, and they come to one that fits their schedule. And there at this workshop, we're talking about, what have we learned from our assessment this year that should drive what we focus on? What matters most to our overall effectiveness? What changes do we have in the Common Course requirements? And getting them to talk about best practices. Christine, you came in last year to our Building Connections Conference.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with that. But that's the only time that I get all 220 people together in the same place at the same time. And then we utilize our campus experts and our faculty to lead concurrent sessions. That's the major professional ongoing. And I'm sure, we're all going to go to annual next week, and we're going to look at a time slot and say, I want to go to all these sessions. So we just run them again all summer. And this is what looks sort of like overwhelming, but we have a faculty development workshop almost every day. But that's not me or somebody on my team leading it. These are, if I have an instructor who did something really great, hey, can you do a workshop at 2:00 for the instructors? And those are going to be optional; they're not required. But the Building Connections Conference and the syllabus prep are required each year for ongoing training. And then in the fall, we get together for faculty meetings and brown bag lunches so that we can talk about teaching and learning and what's happening in your course, because just like one of the benefits of University 101 is for students to realize that they're not alone, and that they're getting validated. Hey, I'm not the only one struggling in chemistry. I'm not the only one feeling homesick or whatever the case might be. If your instructors are feeling like, am I the only one that has a class that doesn't talk, or have a class that's just not turning in work, or I've got this situation or that situation, they need people to talk about it with. And so having that support group, if you will, is crucial. So we're going to have the ongoing model. We also have a really great faculty resource manual that is about 650 pages of great ideas for teaching and learning. You guys are welcome to purchase a copy, and you can make use of it by just customizing it to your campus. But lots of different resources, and this is where we invest the majority of time as our department. I'll stop.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dan. How about Julie or Joe? Any other comments about faculty development?
Julie, please.
Ours is not as intensive as Dan's, but it is pretty intensive.
Good. Mm-hmm.
We also, before you can even consider, I actually do, in the spring, I do 3 information sessions about FYE. If you're interested in coming, come and hear about it, because what we did before was we went right into the workshop, and what we found is we took a half day or a day of people's time, and they were like, whoa, this isn't for me. So in those information sessions, they're about an hour. I'm really honest about, if you want to eat your lunch in the cafeteria and not be bothered, then this course probably isn't for you. Those types of things. And are you really going to be an interactive teacher in those types of things? So the information session weeds out a few people, and in a good way on both sides. We're not wasting their time and giving them the wrong idea. And then we do a day-long training on a Saturday in the spring. And then we actually interview after that. And then if they accept and want to teach for us, they have to do an active learning seminar over the summer on techniques, as well as shadow one of our experienced instructors. And then we do, I actually just started continuing education units for our instructors. So we offer different workshops throughout the year. Some of them are kind of the brown bag that Dan talked about. Hey, come and just talk about what's going on in your class. I had heavily recruited a business adjunct because I knew she was awesome and great. And everyone was sharing positive stuff. And she says, when do we get to the challenges? And she said, does anyone else have students come to class without a book or paper or pen? And I realized she taught sophomore level courses. So those students were all gone. They didn't make it to her sophomore level classes. So she just needed to hear that for the first experience course. This was normal and things we can do about it. And then we do workshops or subject specific. So maybe you struggle with teaching diversity. We'll do a diversity workshop. So instructors have to complete 6 of those workshops in a 3-year time period. So like Dan said, this course is never the same. It's always growing and changing. I think for the first time ever, I'm worried about teaching diversity this semester with everything going on right now. Usually it's one of my favorite things to teach. And right now I'm like, ooh, it's going to be, we're going to have to approach it differently. So the course is always changing. And if we're not changing with it, we're going to lose the students. So again, it's not as intensive as Dan's, but you can't stop with, you're teaching the course now. You don't need more resources. You have to continually give resources to them. Something else I started at the end of the semester, I just do a thank you. We get, I don't know how your community colleges are right now, but we're broke. So my colleague and I, we just get some snacks. I get a gift card somewhere. We do a raffle and just kind of, what was the best thing going on this semester? Just at the end of the semester, thank you for the instructors, and they really appreciate it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's great. So, did you want to add anything, Joe, to that?
Very quickly, when I was doing our program, I tried to do our major, you got to watch the word training. Some of our faculty do not like the term training, like you're a trained animal, at a zoo or something. We're very sensitive, so we ended up going with a workshop, I guess. Tried to do it at a time where they would be most receptive, May before summer break, and then early fall. And the May one being more course design, and then the fall one just before the start of the term on updates. And so timing matters. When will faculty be most energized? I think Dan's point and Julie's that you just don't orient them. You have to have sustained support beyond just the initial preparation. We did that with brown bag lunches. We had a listserv that we all shared. I'm struggling with this. It's third week into the term, and some of us were very good at sharing ideas electronically while the course was in progress. I did want to mention, and I believe it was Dan alluded to this before, that I myself took some of the strategies that I used in the first year seminar. It's like a pedagogical laboratory. I could try things that worked well in my psychology class. So the student information card, the 1-minute paper, some of the pair share and small group work worked so well. I was starting to do that in my psychobiology class, my general psychology class. Some of our instructors who were not in the seminar were hearing about some of the engaging pedagogy that we were banding about in our training, and they would just drop by for their own professional development. Some of them initially came just to learn about what we were doing and then got excited about the course and actually came on as instructors. So we might want to open up the training, or whatever you call it, to faculty at large those who might be intrinsically interested in seeing the effective pedagogy we're using to prepare instructors, and maybe a good recruitment strategy for instructors who get turned on to what we do. And my last point, I don't want to overlook the importance of assignments. It's not only what we do in class. This course can be more than a standalone course. It can be the hub that connects students to all those services on campuses through meaningful assignments, where we get them to the Learning Center, get them to meet with their academic advisor, have them do some reflection on those activities. I think one reason why the course has been successful in promoting student retention is by connecting students with all those support services on campus that they otherwise would not engage with. So part of the training, I think, would be the effective use of assignments, and think about common assignments that you can use in different sections. I found that was one way to get some standardization or consistency across section without messing with Christine's style or Julie's style of teaching in class. But we'd have these common assignments, like meet with your academic advisor to develop an educational plan, meet with a faculty member in the major you think you're going to pursue, interview that faculty member about the challenges of that major, the skills they need, the careers associated to it, do an information interview with a professional career. All those we encouraged students to do that in the past, but they never did it. Once we had the course, we actually had an incentive. I guess you'd call this course integrated support services. So the course became more than just a course. It was sort of like the air traffic controller that we used to get students to do what we thought was critical for their success, and building it into a credit-bearing course with a grade and with assignments then counted toward that grade as a way to incentivize their willingness to engage in these behaviors that otherwise they were opting not to do.
Well, thank you. I know we are getting close to our time, but I know one issue that we haven't talked about that's on the list here is transferability of the course. So I guess I'll turn that to either Julie or Joe. I think would probably be best suited to deal with that issue, unless you have something else to contribute, Dan. But are you finding that a transfer is fine? Are there issues with transfer? Is there anything we can do to try to reduce any issues that might, be in existence regarding the transfer problem?
Julie, you go first.
In our case, the worst it will transfer as an elective, but most institutions will take it as their similar requirement, at least here in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I think you have a better chance if it's a comprehensive course. We've had no issues with it we haven't had any issues with it not transferring. So, like I said, occasionally someone will take it as elective, but most will take it as their similar course.
Okay, thanks. And Joe, anything to add on the transferability?
Of course, Joe Longwood strikes again. Real quickly, California, the California State universities accepted under the category of lifelong learning. That's one of their area general ed requirements. So we were fortunate there. We've had a little more difficulty, as you might expect with the allegedly elite institutions who have their own criteria. I know this sounds tacky, but one thing I think subtly, here are their criteria. They may not make it explicit, but I think they're tacit. Can we make the course something like they already offer? And if it's something they do, then that automatically gives it an imprimatur. So anyway, we could make it comparable to a course that they're already accepting as a graduation credit. The title of the course may make a difference. We want rigor in the title and the topics. Let's not talk about study skills. Let's talk about strategic learning, or even call it learning theory. We could start with the theory, then get right to the practice. But it seems to be one criterion for determining the rigor and transferability of a course is its theoretical, how theoretical or abstract it is. Honestly, we had one school, their mascot is the Trojan, and that's about all I can tell you. And it's Southern California. I got to be discreet. No more than that. And it's not a prophylactic. It's the Spartan. They rejected our course because, quote, it was too practical, too applied. My initial response was to write back, but our director of transfer said, Joe, hold on. I think you're too emotional. You're being too Italian. Let's wait a second, figure this out. And but it was a lesson learned. I redid it. We retitled the course, built more theory into the topics, topic titles. So I think subtly one criterion that colleges use, particularly those who like to see themselves as high on the food chain, is a degree of theory and abstraction that shows up in our title and in our topics. But I think we could play that game and still cover the highly applicable material that we know is so important to our student success.
Great. Well, this has been incredibly helpful, and I know we have about 10 minutes left, so I wanted, I was envisioning we were going to have more dialogue from participants. I certainly want to make sure that participants have an opportunity to jump in case I missed one of our challenges, or you just want to hear more about something. So at this point, you'll have to unmute yourself, but go ahead and jump into the conversation. So we'll pause and see who wants to jump in and ask a question.
I'd love to ask a question of all of you. Hi, Julie, Dan, and Joe. This is Kathy Sook. I teach at Raritan Valley Community College. And the conversation around where should the course live is very near and dear to my heart right now, because that is something I'm tackling right now. And without giving you too many specifics, I was just curious to know, you all kind of in different ways spoke about the notion of basically losing autonomy and losing control of the course depending on where it lives. Could you speak a little bit more to the notion of living in an area that can support the whole college but still maintaining faculty status, or as the coordinator of the course? Is that something that you wrestled with, and how has it affected you?
So I am the chair of the course, which on some campuses is similar to coordinator, that type of thing. And that's part of the reason we chose humanities, is we kind of refer to FYE as similar to English in that every student has to take it. On this campus, humanities kind of supports the rest of the college, and that's why we chose FYE to be in humanities with the academic side of the house and as a faculty chair in charge of it. And that has been the best decision for us. I report to the dean, and obviously the dean reports to the provost. So that's one of the best decisions we've made on our campus.
And in regard to, so I'm asked, I guess my question is, in regard to when you say the best decision for you and the program simultaneously, or solely for the program?
For support of the courses. I think it
Right.
was definitely the best decision to get the support for the courses.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, and Julie, I think you do this too. I think, and I'm not playing the faculty card, but I mean academic credibility, if we could house it in the academic side and have someone in charge of it who's sensitive to the fact that education is broader than just academics, that the person who's coordinating the course has some sensitivity to the role of student support services and experiential learning outside the classroom. Now, I just happen to have that sensitivity because of my early experiences where new student life people reached out to me. But you can have a faculty member, or the person, and it gets back to personality, just like we got to choose the right instructors for the course, we have to choose the right person to administer the course. If we can have academic status, yet a willingness to work collaboratively with student support, that would be the ideal combination. And I always had a steering committee work with me, so it didn't seem like I was that autocratic. You know, I was the faculty member, but I had student life represented. I had academic support services. So we had the advantage of my having a terminal degree and being in an academic department, but I like to share the responsibility of running the course with those who were responsible for other pieces of the holistic pie that were so important to our student success. I would advise a steering committee. I'd love the ideal for me, and maybe Dan would like to, I know we're running out of time, but jump in on this as well. The ideal to me would have been a partnership where I would be an academician with a student life professional or a student service professional. Yeah, that would be my perfect scenario, but I know that's sometimes hard to pull off logistically and politically.
So I'm going to
Joe,
jump
I'm
in.
glad you brought.
Oh, go ahead, Julie. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad Joe brought that up. I don't know why I didn't think about it. We do have an FYE advisory committee on our campus, and that has helped tremendously. We have faculty, staff, and administrators on that committee. It was by invitation, and it was intentional who we invited. So we have someone from institutional research on the committee. We have someone from financial aid on the committee. We have someone from IT on the committee. So we were very intentional. And any decisions, myself and our other full-time FYE faculty member make all final decisions, but recommendations do come from the committee. So the non-academic side of that house also feels like they have some say, but ultimately academics always has the final say. And that has helped tremendously with buy-in. I asked the Dean of Engineering to be on the committee because that is the division on our campus that is the most difficult to work with when it comes to this course. Their students don't need it, which Dan has proved in his research is so wrong. But they are the least favored, and so I have the Dean of Engineering on the committee, and he now teaches for me. So the committee does help a ton. I'm glad Joe brought that up.
We use that too. It's invaluable, so highly recommend it.
I see there's a question in the chat, so I just want to make sure we get to that, and then I'll see if there's another, maybe one question or so. We only have a couple minutes left. How are your courses graded? So I'm assuming this question is asking, you know, is it a letter grade or a pass-fail situation?
Ours is letter graded A through F, 3 credit hours.
Okay.
So ours also, however, this fall we are going to ABCF because we have found, we've done research that students who complete with a D are not successful. So we are going to ABCF starting in the fall.
Interesting. Is that just for this course or is that campus-wide?
Just for the FYE course. Our academic foundations courses do that as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Ours was letter graded. I always insisted on that because I thought we got more effort for students. And it also lent credibility to the course. Other courses on campus were letter graded. If our course is just as legitimate as others, it should be letter graded. And if I recall correctly, the History University of South Carolina program, when Dan Berman was the predecessor, coordinating University 101, it was pass-fail, and the students themselves requested that it be a letter grade because those students who were putting a lot of time and effort into the course felt that they weren't being rewarded for their efforts. So there is some background history that students would prefer a letter grade, particularly the high achieving students.
Yeah, if they're going to invest the effort, they want that credit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we make them work, right? It's a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Anyone have one last final question? all. Okay, well, with that, I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I can't even begin to thank you all enough. This was an incredible conversation. We are so fortunate to have all of your expertise and willingness to share your data, your experiences, successes, challenges, failures, all those things along the way. It really helps shape what we're going to do here in New Jersey, and I think it's going to help us significantly move towards our goals. So I want to really just sincerely just thank you for your time and your expertise. We are very grateful for your willingness to share all of your time and knowledge with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
You're most welcome. Thanks for inviting us.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to thank all of you who participated. This is great. We had a great turnout. So I am looking forward to continuing the dialogue. Our student success course coordinators are meeting again on the 8th. So I'll see you all day, and we'll continue the dialogue and continue to work the curriculum and deal with these challenges and move forward. And then I hope to see several of you next week at the FYE conference as well. So looking forward to that as well. So thank you all. I hope everyone has a lovely evening. And I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and I'm going to, first I got to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn off the webinar. So take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.